Dadala. Kalis. Kalupad. Da! Kaba. Kalis.
In a short while, we'll have the arrival of the incoming Commanding General, Philippine Army. We'd like to inform you of the arrival of the incoming Commanding General, Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Glorioso V. Miranda. Together with him is his lady, Mrs. Caroline Miranda. The incoming Commanding General, Philippine Army is received by the Vice Commander, Philippine Army, Major General Harold N. Cabreros. Please rise for the arrival honors.
Ang dadala. Kalis. Tanghal. Ta! Kalupunan, mga pinunot kawal. Tanghal. Ta! Dadala.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Kalis. Baba. Ta! Ginoo, handa na po ang tanod pandangal upang libutin. Tanghal! Ha! Kalupunan, tanghal. Ha! Baba, ha! Dadala. Kalis. Baba! Ha! Ginoo, tapos na po ang parangal. Baba, kalis.
Ladies and gentlemen, the incoming Commanding General Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Glorioso V. Miranda. The rest of the guests may be seated.
Kalupunan, nandadala. Kalis. Tikas! Na! Tikas. Na!
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to acknowledge the arrival of the Commanding General Philippine Army and Chief of Staff Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Año. Together with him is his lady, Mrs. Jane Jocelyn Maria D. Año. In a few moments, the Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Delphine N. Lorenzana, will be arriving. The Secretary of Defense will be received by the outgoing Commanding General, Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Año.
Talupad! Ta! Baba, kalis.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to announce the arrival of the Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Delphine N. Lorenzana. Please rise for the arrival honors.
Ang dadala. Kalis. Tanghal! Ha! Baba, ta.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Kalis. Baba! Ta! Ginoo, handa na po ang tanod pandangal upang libutin. Tanghal! Kalupunan, tanghal. Ta! Baba, ta. Dadala. Kalis. Baba! Ta! Ginoo, tapos na po ang parangal. Baba, kalis.
Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Delphine N. Lorenzana.
Dadala. Kalis.
The guest may be seated.
Harap sa kanan. Harap! Kanang balikat. Ta! Liko sa kaliwa. Kalupunan, liko sa kanan. Cut!
Mabuhay! Isang magandang hapon sa ating lahat. We welcome you to this ceremony wherein we'll witness a testimonial review in honor of the outgoing Commanding General Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Año, one of the respected leaders of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Today's event also features the change of command ceremony of the Philippine Army, wherein the Secretary of Defense will preside over the ceremony. On this occasion, we will witness the handing over of the command of Team Army from the outgoing leadership who assumed the top position in the military hierarchy. This also gives us the opportunity to welcome the incoming leadership who would steer the wheel of the command. For now, just sit back and make yourselves comfortable. We shall begin with the ceremony. You have just heard the sound of the attention call, which signals the entry of the troops for this ceremony. From the right of the grandstand, ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing the entry of the division-sized troops comprising this ceremony. These troops hail from various Army units. They represent the Army soldiers ever ready to serve the people while securing the land. The Philippine Army soldiers take on the multifaceted role of community organizer, development worker, peacekeeper, human rights advocate, and as mandated combatants. However, the Army soldiers have been transformed to agents of peace and development in response to the AFP's internal security plan Bayanihan. In line with this, the Army continuously works based on the comprehensive campaign plan focusing on peace building. Army soldiers have been encouraged to internalize the paradigm of this campaign plan, crafted after a series of consultations with stakeholders of the country. Through the years, Army soldiers have always been helping the Filipino people, especially those in need, with various operations and activities that help alleviate the plight and problems of the people. However, Filipino soldiers as war machines for the strict military hard power, focusing mainly on security and combat operations. Today's Army soldiers are seen on a different light. They have embarked on the effective use of soft development tools carried out through nation-building initiatives. They take on their role as catalysts for peace, development, and good governance. They have shown their sincere efforts of showing the countrymen that they are agents of Syria, Sudan, Syria, Ivory Coast, and East Timor. They spread the light of hope to victims of tragedy and conflict both local and abroad. This just proves that the brave Army soldiers form an integral part of the lives of the Filipinos. They know that the road to peace is not a paved one, and so they have prepared themselves before every battle, armed with prayer and undying faith of a better tomorrow for the country. And for the success of their missions, Philippine Army soldiers risk their lives and limbs. We then pay tribute to their valiant efforts and sacrifices offered for the country and its people. As one family, the Philippine Army carries the heavy role of providing peace and progress for the motherland. Hand in hand, Army soldiers will support each other and will fulfill their avowed mission. Nonetheless, your Philippine Army continuously presses on despite the insurmountable challenges as it strives to be a world-class army that is a source of national pride by 2028. In today's ceremony, our parading troops are organized as follows. The 1st Battalion of the 1st Brigade is a composite battalion of service and combat support units of the Philippine Army, with headquarters and headquarters support group, Army Reserve Command, Civil Military Operations Group, Finance Center, Army Personnel Management Center, Army Signal Regiment, Task Group Bantay, while the 2nd Battalion comes from the 84th Infantry Battalion, a unit of Battalion of Excellence. For the 2nd Brigade, 1st Battalion consists of soldiers from the Special Operations Command, while the 2nd Battalion comes from the 525th Engineer Combat Battalion of the 51st Engineer Brigade, the Disaster Response Unit of the Philippine Army. Well, in today's ceremony, we recognize, of course, the outgoing Commanding General Philippine Army based on the doctrine, material, personnel, leadership, and education, facilities on reservist and retiree affairs, the operational tempo sustained, the civil military operations, the CAFGO affairs, the gender and development, the international engagement and peace support operations, the humanitarian assistance and disaster risk reduction, the Army Transformation Roadmap, and the other significant accomplishments based on the Philippine Army support to law enforcement operations against illegal drugs.
Talupad! Ho! Talupad! Ho!
Ladies and gentlemen, before you is a representation of the Philippine Army, serving the people, securing the land. Once again, a pleasant afternoon. We welcome you to the testimonial review in honor of the outgoing Army Chief and the ceremony on the change of leadership in the Philippine Army. On the ground before you, ladies and gentlemen, are the troops for the ceremony. They are the personnel performing operations other than war and those in combat and combat support. The troop commander for this afternoon ceremony is Major General Benjamin R. Madrigal Jr., commander of the 4th Infantry Division, Philippine Army.
Tanghal! Ha!
Please rise for the presentation of command and honors.
Mga pinuno, bugay kamay. Mga pinuno, baba kamay.
Thank you. The audience may be seated.
Baba! Ha!
The troop commander will now present the troops for inspection.
Ginoo, handa na po ang mga sampanaw upang lubutin.
Our honorary, the outgoing Commanding General Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Año will inspect the troops, accompanied by the military host, the Vice Commander of the Philippine Army, Major General Harold N. Cabreros. They will also be joined by the troop commander and his staff. The leader who gave out his great share of contribution for the Philippine Army and the armed forces, for each soldier, for the country, and the Filipino people. His ascent to the #1 position in the Armed Forces of the Philippines as the Chief of Staff to lead 100,000 strong members only shows his knowledge and expertise in the field where he belongs. Looking back, it was on July 2015 when our honoree assumed as the Commanding General Philippine Army. From there on, he led the Army to what and where it is today. aiming for institutional transformation and a whole-of-nation approach to attain its fundamental mandate of maintaining sovereignty and national security. The Philippine Army is focused more than ever on performing its directive to develop, organize, train, equip, support, and sustain its forces in the conduct of prompt and sustained operations to aid in the armed forces of the Philippines mission. Thus, during the incumbency of our honoree, he exhorted the organization to thrive on excellence as it relentlessly upheld the protection of the country and its people while pursuing the collective vision of a world-class army that is a source of national pride. Our honoree's adept leadership was manifested in the persistent pursuit of transforming the Philippine Army into a world-class army. He guided for the institutionalized reforms within the organization in tune with the Army Transformation Roadmap while implementing the policies set forth by the Commander-in-Chief on matters concerning support to law enforcement against illegal drugs, criminality, and corruption, among others. The Army's effectiveness rests on its core competencies, professionalism, and efficiency in carrying out support functions and management of its resources. While continuous improvement of these fundamentals, it can be expected that the organization will be better able to respond to the needs of field units and will put forward workable solutions to address numerous challenges in each of the AFP mission areas. On the other hand, changes in the organization indicate the command's eagerness to mold the Army into a more dynamic and responsive force prepared to address current and future threats despite the numerous challenges it faces. His leadership will serve as his legacy, ever inspiring the Army to remain steadfast in upholding excellence and integrity in its endeavors, all in the pursuit of becoming a world-class Army that is a source of national pride. Hatid namin sa inyo ang maligayang pagbati. Sumainyo ang pagpapala ng dakilang lumikha. Isang pagpupugay sa isang huwarang leader na hindi natitinag, may prinsipyo at paninindigan, gayon din ang puro puso para sa kanyang nasasakupan at higit kanino man. Ladies and gentlemen, the 57th Commanding General of the Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Eduardo Manahan Anyo. In a short while, we'll proceed with the presentation of awards.
Ang taong may dala ng parangal at mga watawat, pumagit na kad!
Awards and decorations are substantial proofs of gallant acts, skills demonstrated, adeptness, and merit. The presentation of award is a manifestation of recognizing the exemplary performance shown especially in the military service.
Sulo. Watawat. Ho!
We'd like to request our honoree to join the color detail on the ground.
Ginoo, ang taong pararangalan at mga watawat, narito na po. Tanghal. Ha!
Please rise for the honors to the nation.
Kalpanan, okay kamay. Ha!
Sayang pag-ibig, pero sa silangan Nanalap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay Lumang hinirang, tuya ka ng magiting Sa magdulungin, di ka pa sisihin Sa nagdagang mundo, sa simulan Sa langit mo'y bukha, may halagang tulatawid Sa paglayang minamahal ang kislap ng watawat ni tagumpay na nanginginig Ang bituin na tarang ay kailan pa may mag-ibig Araw-araw ating pagsimba Buhay langit sa piling mo Ang ligaya ng pagmay mga api Ang matay ng dahil sa'yo
Kalpanan, baba kamay. Ha!
Thank you. Please be seated.
Baba. Ha!
Receive the award. The Adjutant General, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Brigadier General Roel N. Cerilla, will read a citation of the award.
JAL Headquarters, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo, Quezon City. General Orders Number 1471, published on 08 December 2016. Pursuant to the provisions of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Regulations General 131-054, the Distinguished Service Star Interim is awarded to Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Anyo, Officer-8678, Armed Forces of the Philippines, for eminently meritorious and valorous service rendered in a position of major responsibility as the 57th Commanding General, Philippine Army, from 13 July 2015 to 09 December 2016. Imbued with highest standards of the Army core values of honor, patriotism, and duty, Lieutenant General Anyo executed exceptional leadership and professional competence as he steered the Philippine Army towards the fulfillment of the Army's mandate. Lieutenant General Anyo sustained the Philippine Army honor and integrity by successfully implementing strategic programs and initiatives, as well as commending the rewarding performance of major units and officers who are constantly crafting the Army to be an improved and competent institution, coupled with the collaboration with internal and external stakeholders for peace. His tour of duty was marked with effective command and control and distinct acumen in setting the direction of the Philippine Army in the formulation, development, and execution of national defense programs, particularly to carry out internal security operations with regard to territorial defense, the primary mission area of the Philippine Army. Likewise, the Philippine Army had also successfully showcased the Philippine Army's capability to host and excel in an international Army shooting competition, as it hosted and conducted the 26th ASEAN Army's Rifle Meet, the 17th ASEAN Chiefs of Army Multilateral Meeting, and the 6th ASEAN Army Sergeant Majors Annual Meeting. Moreover, on transformation, his foundational achievements include the sustainment of the Army governance pathway, which was patterned after the performance governance system pathway of the Institute for Solidarity Asia, which intends to reward units that showcase excellent governance and strategy management. Furthermore, under the command of Lieutenant General Anyo, the Philippine Army has charted its own roadmap towards organizational excellence, pursued major initiatives, and attained true transformation. By these achievements, Lieutenant General Anyo earned distinct credit not only for himself, but also for the Armed Forces of the Philippines. By command of Lieutenant General Miranda, official Salvador Melchor Bimison Jr., Lieutenant General, Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Deputy Chief of Staff. Signed, Ruel N. Surilla, Brigadier General, Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Adjutant General.
We'd like to request Mrs. Jane Jocelyn Maria D. Anyo, ma'am, to join your husband and assist as he receives the award. The Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Delphine N. Lorenzana, is requested to present the award to be assisted by Rear Admiral Alan B. Rosal, Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel J1. Congratulations to General Anyo, sir. Thank you very much. To the Secretary of National Defense, to J1, and to Mrs. Anyo.
Mga watawat, sumalunaan. Kad!
As we proceed with the ceremony on the change of command of the Philippine Army, we enjoin everyone to rise for the invocation to be officiated by the Chief Chaplain, Philippine Army, Colonel Fernando G. Gaila.
Let us pray. Eternal God, in reverent silence we bow our heads, beseeching your presence in our midst as we hold this change of command ceremony of the Philippine Army. May your spirit be in each one of us gathered this afternoon, and may this activity be rooted in brotherly affection and team effort. Lord, we praise and thank you for allowing us to gather and hold this ceremony. We thank you for giving us Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Anyo, AFP, a true officer and a gentleman, who is now the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. After dedicating the best years of his military life in the Philippine Army, he now lives to take post of a higher echelon. Bless him and his family, that they may enjoy life to the fullest, as you have assured to all who believe in you. In thanksgiving, we glorify your name for all the graces you bestowed upon the Philippine Army during Lieutenant General Anyo's incumbency as Commanding General. We pray that as he transfers the symbol of stewardship, all his innovations for better service be held in high esteem. May everything he infused remains as a trademark worthy of emulation. We pray also for our incoming Commanding General of the Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Glorioso V. Miranda, AFP. With him at the helm, may the Philippine Army fulfill its commitment. We pray that his leadership offers new ways and innovations to enable us to improve the implementation of our mandated task. We implore your blessings upon him. This we ask in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you. The audience may be seated. The Adjutant General Armed Forces of the Philippines, Brigadier General Ruel Encirilla, will read the relief and designation orders.
General Headquarters, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo, Quezon City. General Orders Number 1479, published on 09 December 2016. Section 1, Designation of Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Anyo, Officer-8678, Armed Forces of the Philippines, as Commanding General, Philippine Army, is terminated effective 09 December 2016. Section 2, Lieutenant General Glorioso V. Miranda, Officer-8762, Armed Forces of the Philippines, is designated as Acting Commanding General, Philippine Army, in addition to his other duties, effective 09 December 2016, pending approval of the regular designation of Commanding General, Philippine Army from the President. By command of Lieutenant General Anyo, Official Salvador Melchor Bimison Jr., Lieutenant General, Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Deputy Chief of Staff. Signed, Ruel N. Surilla, Brigadier General, Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Adjutant General.
The outgoing Commanding General, Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Anyo, will give his remarks. This will be followed by his reading and signing of the orders for his relinquishment of command.
Major General Madrigal, please give the troops tikas pahinga.
Tikas! Ha! Kalapunan, tikas. Ha!
Our guest of honor and presiding officer, Secretary Delphin N. Lorenzana of the Department of National Defense, may I greet my family, my lovely wife, Jean Jocelyn Maria, and our children, EJ and Edward, and my daughter-in-laws, Anna and Tina, and grandchildren, Sander and Kari. The incoming Commanding General of the Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Glorioso B. Miranda, and wife Caroline, and their children, Charmaine Ann, Christine Andrea, Glenn Carlo, and Gian Christopher. Secretary Voltaire T. Gasmin, former CGPA and Secretary of National Defense. General Ricardo Bisaya, former Chief of Staff of AAP. Lieutenant General Edgar Pallorina, Commanding General of the Philippine Air Force, and his wife, Erica. Vice Admiral Ronald Joseph Mercado, the Flag Officer in Command, Philippine Navy, and his wife, Emily. May I greet the former Commanding Generals of the Philippine Army, Major General and Mrs. Manuel B. Cacanando, the 31st CGPA. Lieutenant General and Mrs. Raul Aurelio, the 38th CGPA. Lieutenant General and Mrs. Romeo Tolentino, the 48th CGPA. Lieutenant General and Mrs. Arturo B. Ortiz, the 53rd CGPA. May I also greet retired General Ramon Parolan, sir, former Commanding General of the Philippine Air Force. Major General Harold Cabreros, the Army Vice Commander. Brigadier General Robert Arevalo, Army Chief of Staff. Major General Elmer Pabale, Commander of the Army Support Command. Brigadier General Rodel Mauro Alarcon, Commander of Headquarters and Headquarters Support Group. From the General Headquarters, the Joint Personnel Special Staff, Rear Admiral Alan Rosal, RJ-1. Colonel Bonifacio Cebrian Jr., the Assistant J2. Brigadier General Noel Clement, the J3. Major General Jab Yucoco, the J4. Major General Guillermo Molina Jr., the J5. Major General Jose Tanuan Jr., the J6. Major General Elvin Velasco, the J8. Brigadier General Restituto Padilla, AJ7. Major General Oscar Tilactao, Commander Central Command.
Sir, si Secretary Jasmine kung di naman.
Our Philippine Army Major Unit Commanders, Major General Gerardo Barrientos Jr., Commander 1st Infantry Division. Brigadier General Roderick Paraino, Commander of the 2nd Infantry Division. Brigadier General John Aying, Commander 3rd ID. Of course, we have the Troop Commander, Major General Benjamin Madrigal, Commander 4th Division. And thank you for volunteering to be the Troop Commander. Brigadier General Paul Atal, Commander 5th Infantry Division. Major General Carlito Galvez, Commander 6th Infantry Division. Major General Angelito De Leon, Commander 7th Infantry Division. Brigadier General Raul Parnacio, Commander of the 8th Infantry Division. Major General Manolito Orense, Commander of the 9th Infantry Division. Major General Rafael Valencia, Commander of the 10th Infantry Division. Brigadier General Danilo Pamonag, Commander, Special Operations Command. Major General Edgar Gonzalez, Commander, Mechanized Infantry Division. Brigadier General Hermenegildo Aquino, Commander, Training and Doctrine Command, Philippine Army. Colonel Ramiro Manuel Rey, Commander, Special Forces Regiment Airborne. Officials from the Department of National Defense, relatives and friends of our honorees. First Chief Master Sergeant Romeo Handugan, the AAP Sergeant Major. Philippine Army enlisted personnel headed by Chief Master Sergeant Roberto Jimenez. Civilian employees headed by Ms. Leti Edith Lacanienta. Now may I request the members of the PMA Maticas class of 1983, please stand up to be recognized. Thank you. And of course, the charming ladies of the PMA Maticas class of 1983. Thank you. Officers, enlisted personnel, and civilian workforce of the Philippine Army, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 1 year and 5 months had passed since I took oath as the 57th Commanding General of the Philippine Army. My first few weeks in the office were met with frequent calls and letters that came in bulk. They were overflowing with greetings of congratulations and well-wishers from the various defense and foreign attachés, military counterparts, government officials, prestigious members of the private sector, stakeholders of peace, and longtime friends. Because of this, I started on with so much inspiration in the performance of my duties. It was both humbling and honoring to know that a great number of people have put their confidence and belief in my capacity as a leader. Their overwhelming show of support assured me of the significant role that the Philippine Army plays in the global community and here at home. I was inspired even more, as I am now, by the reflection of leading an institution made up of 85,000 strong, courageous, dedicated, and loyal group of men and women. With enthusiasm, I sought to do my best as the new commanding general and sustain the Philippine Army's trust to be a world-class army and the source of national pride, as what we have shown in the recent hosting of the 2016 ASEAN Armies Rifle Meet, the ASEAN Chiefs of Army Multilateral Meeting, and the ASEAN Sergeant Majors Annual Meeting. It is then with great pride that I congratulate the Team Army in its impressive performance in the just concluded ASEAN Armies Rifle Meet, where our contingent bagged numerous gold medals showcasing the world-class skills of our soldiers. Salamat sa inyong pagpupunyagi. Ang inyong tagumpay ay hindi lamang isang malaking karangalan para sa hukbong katihan ng Pilipinas. Ito ay tagumpay na maipagmamalaki ng ating bansa. Likewise, the successful conduct of the ASEAN Chiefs of Army Multilateral Meeting stands out as a testimony not just to the great leaps we have made forward, but also to the trust and respect of our ASEAN counterparts. We made history with the landmark signing of the concept paper to adopt the protocol to the ASEAN Chiefs of Army Multilateral Meeting. This will further develop our channels for regional cooperation and collaboration, built on trust and mutual respect. Truly, I feel proud as your commanding general to have been part of these numerous significant milestones. With the unparalleled efforts of the men and women of the Philippine Army, we have altogether steered the organization into a direction that ensured, first, the organizational and professional development of the Philippine Army. Second, the maintenance of peace in our country. Third, the improvement of our readiness for the conduct of our humanitarian assistance disaster response operations. And lastly, the enhancement of our international defense and security engagement and strengthening of our ties with our neighboring countries and the rest of the world. Much has been achieved since, but not without challenges. With the active participation of every Army soldier, we are able to overcome these challenges and emerge ever so successful. Given more time, together we could have achieved more. Nevertheless, I am equally proud and confident of the men and women of this revered institution who have the commitment and dedication to pursue greater heights for the Philippine Army. Under the leadership of the new commanding general, I am confident that the Army will be well underway in its pursuit of performance, excellence, and organizational development under Lieutenant General Miranda. Let me now thank everyone who has greatly contributed to the success of the Philippine Army during my stint. Foremost, to the Lord God Almighty for His perpetual guidance throughout my military career, for the wisdom that has always put forward the greater good of the organization. My utmost gratitude also goes to the illustrious line of predecessors, the former commanding generals of the Philippine armies. Sir, can I request the former commanding generals of the Army to stand up, please? You have been the source of our inspiration. Also the senior leaders and visionaries who had served as my colleagues, mentors, and teachers. To the competent, responsible, and professional members of the Conference Group Alpha and Conference Group Charlie, please stand up to be recognized. Ayan po sila. Thank you. With your initiatives and innovations, we are able to function as a team and meet our objectives, particularly that of supporting our frontline units in priority areas. To the leadership, men and women of the headquarters and headquarters support group, my sincerest thanks for managing all routine and special activities inside the camp absolutely well, and for keeping our home in its most presentable and orderly state. Pwede pong tumayo ang mga taga-headquarters and headquarters support group under Brigadier General Alarcon. Thank you. Allow me also to acknowledge our civilian workforce for ensuring the efficiency of every offices of the Philippine Army. Pwede pong tumayo ang ating mga civilian employees. Palakpakan po natin sila. As officers and men in your respective offices come and go, your expertise and experience shall keep the various offices functioning seamlessly like well-oiled cogs in a complex machine. Sa ating mga magigiting na kawal, the backbone of the Philippine Army, nang magsimula ang aking pamumuno, taus-pusong pagtitiwala at suporta ang agad na sumalubong at iginawa ninyo sa akin. Ang mga naitala nating tagumpay ay dahil sa inyong tulong, malasakit at pakikipagbayanihan. Kaya ang tagumpay ng hukbong katihan ay tagumpay nating lahat. Nagpapasalamat din ako sa inyong pagsusumikap at mga sakripisyo. Higit pa sa anumang dahilan, ang mga tagumpay na ating tinatamasa ngayon ay utang natin sa ating mga kapwa sundalong nag-alay ng kanilang buhay sa ngalan ng sinumpaang tungkulin. Gayon din sa ating magigiting na tropa na nasa frontline units at sa mga sandaling ito ay patuloy na nakikipaglaban at sumusuong sa panganib. Ang mga sugat na kanilang natamo at bawat pagdanak ng kanilang dugo at pawis ay tanda ng kabayanihang ipinagmamalaki hindi lamang ng ating hukbo, kundi pati na rin ng buong sambayanang Pilipino. Hindi kailanman matutumbasan ang inyong sakripisyo at ito ang nagsisilbing inspirasyon sa ating lahat upang maipagpatuloy natin ang laban para sa kapayapaan at upang mapaghusay pa ang ating paglilingkod sa bayan. Kaugnay nito, ikinagagalak kong ipaalam sa inyo na sa ating mga pagsisikap at magandang performance ay naaprubahan na ang ating hiling na mga karagdagang budget para sa taong 2017. Nangangahulugan ito ng tuloy-tuloy na pag-usad ng mga programang mag-aangat sa kapakanan ng bawat sundalo at kakayahan ng ating hukbo. Tiwala ako, gaya ng ating panata nang tayo ay pumasok sa serbisyo, na ito ay tutumbasan natin ng tapat at maasang paglilingkod sa ating bayan. Bilang pagkilala sa ating mga sundalo na nasa frontline units, inayahan kong tumayo ang ating mga Army Major Unit Commanders, yung ating mga Infantry Division Commanders at Major Army Units. Please stand up. Palakpakan po natin sila. Thank you. To all the different stakeholders and counterparts from the government agencies and non-government organizations, the Philippine Army Multi-Sectoral Advisory Board and the MUP have been the Philippine Army's staunch and reliable partners. Time and again, we have proven that through collaboration and convergence, we can achieve more. May you continue to extend such high level of support and cooperation to all our endeavors. Let me also acknowledge my ever-supportive wife, Jean, who has always been by my side since I was a cadet at the academy. Words are not enough to describe how truly grateful and blessed I am that I have you in my life. Let me also recognize my children, Edwin Jr., Edward, Janelle, and JC, and the other family members, my source of inspiration and strength. I will not be the man I am today if not for all of you. Thank you for your love. As I now move on to take the greater responsibility of leading the entire armed forces of the Philippines, I stand here in front of you today, pumped up and filled with great joy and enthusiasm, ready to serve. For this highest honor of serving the country, allow me to once again express my gratitude to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, and the Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Delphin N. Lorenzana. Sir, without pouring of support to the military institution, I can personally say now is the best time, the proudest time to be a Filipino soldier. Thank you, sir, for entrusting this great responsibility to me. To my successor, Lieutenant General Glorioso Miranda, I am passing on the saber of leadership of the Philippine Army to you with great confidence and trust. A seasoned combat officer with a vast wealth of leadership experience and expertise, I know that you are up to the challenge of leading the 85,000 strong men and women of the Army. I wish you the best of luck and take charge. And before I end this remark, let me present my tour of duty report to Secretary Delphin Lorenzana. I enjoin everyone to continue to work together and unite as a force that will pursue peace, progress, and development for our nation. Muli, isang malaking karangalan para sa akin na kayo ay mapaglingkuran bilang ika-57 punong komandante ng Hukbong Katihan ng Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang Hukbong Katihan ng Pilipinas.
Kaluparan, mantap! Sampanaw! Ta!
Headquarters, Philippine Army, Office of the Commanding General, Fort Andres Bonifacio, Metro Manila, Office Orders Number 01, dated 09 December 2016. Relinquishment of office. Pursuant to Section 1, General Orders Number 1475, Headquarters, Philippine Army, dated 09 December 2016, I hereby relinquish the position as Commanding General, Philippine Army, effective this date, and I sign in your presence.
The outgoing Commanding General, Philippine Army, will order the Command Sergeant Major, Chief Master Sergeant Roberto Jimenez, to hold down his personal flag.
Command Sergeant Major. Please lower my flag.
A distinguishing mark of influence is characterized by the personal flag of someone in authority. On this occasion of the Philippine Army's change of command, the lowering of the personal flag of the outgoing Commanding General signifies the handing over of the responsibilities attached to his position. The encased personal flag of the outgoing Commanding General Philippine Army will now be presented by the Command Sergeant Major. The incoming Commanding General Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Glorioso V. Miranda, will read and sign the orders for his assumption of command.
Headquarters, Philippine Army, Office of the Commanding General, Fort Andres Bonifacio, Metro Manila. Dated 9 December 2016, Office Orders Number 02, Assumption of Office. Pursuant to Section 2, General Orders Number 1475, Headquarters, Philippine Army, dated 9 December 2016, I hereby assume the position as Commanding General, Philippine Army, effective this date, and I sign in your presence.
We shall now witness the handover of the command symbol to be presided by Secretary Delphine N. Lorenzana. Saber is a symbol of responsibility and dependability. Saber is associated with military leadership and warfare. The new Commanding General, Philippine Army, Lieutenant General Glorioso V. Miranda, will now give his first order to the Command Sergeant Major, that of raising his personal flag. He will also deliver his remarks. For the new Commanding General, his first order is the raising of his personal flag. A personal flag marks the presence of the one who would steer the wheel of the command.
Troop Commander, please give troops tikas pahinga.
Tika.
I would like to acknowledge my direct family. I would like to acknowledge, though he is not present here, my father, who is strong in spirit and yet not cooperating physically, that was not able to travel in this area to witness. He is now 92 years old. But just the same, I would like to acknowledge my mother here, Virginia Ventura Miranda. Mother, please stand up. Wherein in our locality, she is called Nana Bihing. My wife, Caroline, of course, please stand up. My daughters, Charmaine Ann, please stand up. Christine Andrea, Glenn Carlo, Gian Christopher, And my grandson, although I know that he may not appreciate it, but I don't know what is in mind, probably looking at the soldiers' information, treating them as a toy. I just hope that he doesn't treat his grandfather a toy, much that we look the same. I would like to greet also my brother, Dominador Miranda Jr., and my youngest sister, Virginia Imelda Miranda. And I have with me my brother-in-law, Bubut Manuela. Thank you very much for coming. And worth of acknowledgement also is our major service commander who are present here. Of course, Lieutenant General Edgar R. Falurina, the Commanding General of the Philippine Air Force, and wife, Erica. Vice Admiral Ronald Joseph S. Mercado, the Flag Officer in Command, Philippine Navy, and wife, Emily. Former Chief of Staff, AAP, General Ricardo R. Bisaya, AAP. Thank you very much for coming. The former Commanding Generals of the Philippine Army, Major General Manuel V. Cacanando, Lieutenant General Raul S. Aurelio, Lieutenant General Romeo P. Tolentino, Lieutenant General Arturo B. Ortiz, and we have Lieutenant General Farolan, the Philippine Air Force former Commanding General. Unified Commander present here, Major General Oscar T. Lactao, Commander of the Central Command. Officials from the Department of National Defense, the Philippine Army Major Unit Commanders, Chiefs of General, Personnel, Special, and Technical Staffs, the same people that I'll be working with. Members of the PMA Matikas Class of 83 and their lovely ladies, please stand up for the second time. Members of the Joint Personnel, Special Staff, and APSUS, and other commanders present, generals, staff, and key officers of the Philippine Army, the AAP Sergeant Major, Romeo Ed Sandugan, enlisted personnel headed by CMS Roberto D. Jimenez, Philippine Army, civilian employees, our friends from the media, other guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are gathered here today in testimony to the turnover of command of the Commanding General, Philippine Army. A ceremony that may look as simple as it is, yet as meaningful as it can get. Probably, very few among the audience here may have realized that this ceremony may appear as a normal tradition or customary practice in rendering the changing of the guards in the manner of speaking. It is rather a virtual demonstration on what the Army is all about. Behind me and in front of you is the succinct formation is the best possible way of demonstrating the unrelenting professionalism of this institution. This is just a small window of the more or less 85,000 personnel organized into units and task forces scattered across the land, performing myriad of missions and various tasks. Not exactly as in this parade and ceremony as we are having right now, but rather in tight situations, exposing oneself into various elements, putting oneself in extreme danger and sacrifices in service to the Filipino people. The formation in front of us demonstrates the standard of discipline and conduct of oneself, defining the system, the firmness of the Philippine Army as an institution, the chain of command, the synergy of effort, the beauty of teamwork, among other things. This, in a nutshell, are in the imperatives at hand vested on my shoulders for us to maintain and sustain as the force provider in the conduct of ground operations in support to AFP mission. And that each individual troop and subordinate units may possess those characters and attributes well fitting to the various taskings that our soldiers are receiving. I am personally aware of the profession of soldiery born out of my deployments and assignments since entering the military service. In my first 15 years in service, I have categorically fought with our troops, eat with our troops, and sleep with them, wherein the distinction between the leader and the rest of the troops is blurred in as much as the risk of life is concerned. I am aware of the difficulties and sacrifices of which the only option is to endure it and survive it, because after all, it is bundled into the oath that we all took when we volunteered in this noble way of life. Now, I am reminded of that oath without regret, and let this be a reminder to the rest of us. Leading men in tight situations and along crossroads has always been the main menu to me. From 7-man team to platoon, then to company, then the battalion, the brigade, and eventually the infantry division, and to the area command. The Vice Chief of Staff, AFP, for a while, and likewise, the Acting Chief of Staff, AFP, for a while, and now, the entire Philippine Army. This time around, it is not just a matter of commanding, but rather the administration and management of the command itself that cascades into the individual soldier deployed in various ways. Soldiers from recruitment, training, development, and enablement, deployment, sustainment, retirement, and post-service course. These are the classical verbs and adjectives that governs this posting. Having said this, I have to admit in candor that I am truly humbled by this designation in acting capacity as it may. It is a challenge I accept and that I fully commit my unrelenting dedication to service. At this juncture, allow me to express my deepest gratitude to our Commanding-in-Chief, the President of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, the Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, the Chief of Staff then, General Ricardo Visaya, and of course, the rest of my colleagues in arms, including the newly installed Chief of Staff, General Anyo, at the Board of Generals, who have entrusted me to command the entire Philippine Army. Its administration and management to look always the troops' welfare without compromise to the achievement of various missions endowed to us. I may have overstated the soldiers' circumstances, but it is the constant in the profession of arms. Having said that, it is an imperative function of this command to address their inherent risks and difficulties, address it in the fashion to sustain endurance, increase survivability, enable them with the best equipment and wherewithal the command can afford, render them the best developmental training, from character building to the core competence of warfighting to civil relations and other various tasks in unlimited permutations. Provide them the most benefit the government can sustain. Treated with equal importance also is the leadership in various echelons. I see to it that the best among the best and the most fitting shall only be allowed to lead wherein the lives of our men and the mission are entrusted. In terms of management and administration, the overall system and subsystems, the procedures, the processes, the functions shall continue to be reviewed as it has always been in the past, in any view of providing the best services to our men and in consonance to the ever-changing landscape of the security environment. The Army shall always be a step ahead in addressing any threat group and will remain relevant, effective, and efficient. Needless to say, the Army will maintain its unfaltering resolve to the service of the Filipino people, adherence to the chain of command, and fully support and enables policies of higher authorities. Under the present circumstances, as we, the Army, unflinchingly subscribe to the ongoing peace talks to those who are willing to talk, the Army will continue to retool the force to partake in pursuance to the declaration of war by our Commander-in-Chief against illegal drugs and war against terrorism. As I assume this command, and amidst the challenges that I am very much aware of, there is one singular consolation which I attribute to Lieutenant General Eduardo Manahan Año, the newly installed Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, my predecessor. Indeed, during my stint at the halls of General Headquarters, I have been keen in observing the Philippine Army under his watch, and I have to admit with all humility that, sir, it is a job well done. The foundations have been set, the trajectory has been charted, particularly the Philippine Army Transformation Roadmap and the Philippine Army Modernization. Virtual coordinates have been laid down towards the vision, and let me read, a world-class Army, a source of national pride, and its core purpose, serving the people, securing the land, and with the core values, honor, patriotism, and duty. I am taking this as both an opportunity and a challenge to have been seated at the helm to continue to navigate. An opportunity on the one hand to perform to the best of my abilities, and on the other hand, the challenge to surmount obstacles inherent into it. I may not equal your feat, but at least with your permission, please allow us that you will remain as our mentor on this journey. In the same manner, to those lineage of commanding generals and senior officers whom I acknowledge, and those that are not present here, who have led this same institution, after all, we only have one Philippine Army. Finally, having said all that, as your commanding general, I subscribe to the principle of continuity. Military science and military art shall be the centerpiece in our endeavor. Looking the Philippine Army as a whole, we will invest in knowledge-based management with contemporary technologies. We will invest in both the science and the art of synergizing, or blending, if you will, the functions and specializations, or commonly termed as the combined arms, as already enshrined in our doctrine. In the same manner, the Army leadership will actively collaborate with other major service providers. And again, let me acknowledge for the second time the Commanding General of the Philippine Air Force, General Palyurina, and the Flag Officer in Command of the Philippine Navy, Admiral Mercado, in the area or realm of joint operations and interoperability. We will continue to collaborate directly with the force employers, the area commands in particular, in order to best prepare our forces to the requirements. We all know that it is only in this manner that we can achieve and appreciate the full might and power of the armed forces of the Philippines against all odds. Encapsulating the way ahead of the command construct, it is basically centered, soldier-centered, and knowledge management system. It goes without saying, all aforementioned can only be achieved collectively we will embark this endeavor all together. Going back on the formation in front of us, we cannot afford to miss a line or misplace, which is defined by each and individual element performing a specific task. Tasks of equal importance from the singular troop commander to the last elements of the echelon of the command. And as a matter of putting it in the fundamental chant, since I was a second lieutenant with handful of troops, palagi namin sinasabi, sabay-sabaw. And believe me, it worked, and it did always work all the way. Before I end, let us be reminded to our fallen comrades that have rendered the ultimate sacrifice in honorable service to our country, wherein the only known language is mission accomplishment. I know, and I always feel, that we are longing and dying to boldly recite in strong voice with firm salute to our superiors. Sir, your orders are complied with, sir. A bragging right that only belongs to the successful. That is our ultimate pride being in this profession. And, of course, there is no room for failure. In the Army, this is the only chance that you can shout to your highest of your vocal cords can vibrate in front of your superiors and will not be berated or punished, but rather you may even get an award or a medal. In ending, we have an army as part of the Armed Forces of the Philippines to be continued to be loved by the people, and peace and stability, development, and prosperity shall continue to prevail. That is the mission abstract. Thank you. Good day. Maraming salamat sa atin lahat, and God bless.
Kalikanan, manta.
Thank you very much to General Miranda, sir.
Sampanaw. Ta!
The new Commanding General, Philippine Army, will introduce the guest of honor and presiding officer.
Before I introduce our guest of honor and speaker for this afternoon, with this permission, I cannot resist but narrate a few experience with our presiding officer. 19 years ago, I still remember it vividly, when I was installed as the battalion commander of 25th IB, fresh from the command conference, without pistol, without firearms, or without other amenities except my uniform and combat boots. And the presiding officer at the time, if you may call it a turn of our command, is the same person that is presiding for this afternoon. Doon kami sa ilalim ng mangga, and 9 hours after that, I find myself with the tattered battalion, part and parcel of the main attacking force in Camp Omar. During that time, I overheard our presiding officer murmured. Sabi niya, with your permission, sir, I would like to declassify it. Sabi niya, sabi niya, I'm losing Dovey. I overheard him and I said, sir, you may lose me, but I will assure you, you're gonna win the battle and you're gonna win the war. And there it goes. Things went on successfully, and indeed, a great success. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you our guest of honor, speaker and presiding officer for this afternoon, Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Delphine Lorenzana.
Please sit down. Thank you very much. Yeah. Troop Commander, give your troop tikas pahinga.
Tikas. Ha! Kalikunan, tikas. Ha!
General Anyo and his wife, Jean. General Miranda and Caroline. The Honorable Voltaire T. Gasmin, my predecessor, sir. Thank you for coming. General Ricardo Bisaya, former Chief of Staff, comfortably dressed there. No? The DND officials present, Major Service Commanders present, General Falorina and Erika. Vice Admiral Mercado, the flag officer in command, and his wife. Former commanding generals of the Philippine Army present, Mr. Major General Manuel Cacanando, Lieutenant General Aurelio, Lieutenant General Tolentino. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to first to thank and congratulate General Año for a job well done as Commanding General of the Philippine Army for the past 15 months. You know, I did not have the privilege of working with him because, I don't know, it is a very small army. But for some reason, hindi kami nagkita sa tropa. But I know him because in this very small army, your reputation precedes you. Banggitin lang yung pangalan mo, alam na kung sino ka. Siguro, at the time you are captain, pag sinabi nilang si Ed Año yan, alam na nila na he's good. So has been with the intelligence community and has stepped himself with analyzing situations in the region and in the Philippines. He is also a very able combat commander, and I'm sure that as he leaves the Philippine Army, he will bring to the Chief of Staff position all the talents and expertise that he has gained during his early years in the Army. Now, I was at the Philippine Army, headquarters Philippine Army, when this class of 1983 graduated in 1983. Napakarami nila. I think more than 200. Almost 200. There are so many of them that they were distributed all over the Army, and then when you go around, you bump to one of them eventually. And so that's how I met Dobby Miranda. I was the brigade commander in 601st, in 602 in General Santos. And I was visiting 6th Infantry Division. And I saw him there, pakalat-kalat siya doon. Sabi ko, war daw? Hindi ko naman siya kilala eh. Sir, Major Miranda, pa siya noon. Ang ginagawa mo rito, Deputy G3. What? Deputy G3? Pumunta ka sa akin. Sabi ko, I'll make you a battalion commander. But he was my S3 for, I think, 8 months. And then when suddenly the commander of one of my battalion, Rivera, was relieved, I told him, tama yon, sa lalim ng mangga kami nag-ano. And so, from then on, I've been following the career of this gentleman. I was interested on how they perform. And so today, I'm very happy to install you, Dobby, as the 58th Commanding General. 58th Commanding General. To both General Año and General Miranda, my best wishes as you pursue your careers in your respective capacities with the highest degree of professionalism in the service of our country, nation, and people. Our armed forces now presents itself at a time of a welcome development in our national life, a renewed, vigorous labor to achieve the promise of real change by our President. The election of President Duterte as the new leader of our republic promised many meaningful reforms for the genuine restoration of righteous governance for our country and citizenry. He summons our patriotism and moral courage to assist him in ridding our streets and surroundings of illegal drugs and criminal elements, and in cleansing our public service of corruption, red tape, and malpractices. He wants us to live by the standards of valor, integrity, and dedication to duty. He commits to pursue the professionalization and modernization of our armed forces and requires our soldiers to be properly trained and adequately equipped to effectively fight the enemy. Now, on the modernization, I believe that we are on the right track, and I would like to thank my predecessor, Secretary Gasmin, for starting our modernization. Modest as it is, but it is now bearing fruit. Yesterday, we just received 2 more FA-50s for the Philippine Air Force. We will get 8 more, and we are also procuring a simulator for that FA-50. He also started the procurement of 2 frigates from Hyundai, which I signed last August 16, and it will be delivered to us in 2 years' time. And so all these are a good start to at least beef up our, as I said, modest modernization program, so that we can also have a credible defense capability in this region. He wants us to live by the standards of valor, integrity, and dedication to duty. In the performance of our security tasks and functions, be guided always by our collective national defense efforts in the conduct of joint security operations. Whenever necessary, you must always coordinate our security undertakings with the Philippine National Police. One of the first marching order given to me by the President when I was designated as Secretary of Defense was to help the PNP and the PDEA in the war against drugs, and that we are doing. In fact, we have lost, I think, six soldiers already in our assistance to the war on drugs. We have been doing it in the past, and we will continue to intensify our joint cooperative and collaborative undertakings in our national fight against criminality and lawlessness. I wish to thank both of you for the things that we have done together in the short period of my incumbency as Defense Secretary. Whatever gains and progressions we have made and continue to achieve, these are the consequences of our individual and collective dedication to our duties and responsibilities. Without doubt, our collective deeds shall continue to contribute to the attainment of enduring peace and security for our nation and people. Be it in internal security or territorial defense operations, in humanitarian assistance and disaster response, calamities and occurrences of climate change, our Philippine Army and the Armed Forces of the Philippines as a whole are always performing the constitutional duty as protector of the people and the state. To the Philippine Army, thank you very much for doing your individual jobs. I commend your working as a team in the accomplishment of your respective missions. From individual to unit and command levels, your accomplishments have been instrumental in the realization of the overall mission of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. I trust that you, the officers, men and women, and civilian employees of the Philippine Army, shall continue to rally behind your new commander, General Miranda, and extend to him your total support, assistance, and cooperation. In closing, I am happy to join you in welcoming your new Commanding General, General Miranda. In similar remembrance, I join you in sending our best wishes to General Año as he starts his new responsibility as the Chief of Staff. We wish both of them the best of luck in their new assignment. Mabuhay ang Philippine Army, mabuhay ang AFP, mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much to the Secretary of National Defense.
Sampanaw!
Please be seated. We shall proceed with the pass and review.
Kalupunan sa malikod ko. Pasa! Masin! Pasulong! Cut! Kedua, cut!
we'd like to request General Anyo, sir, to stand in front. Today, we recognize the outgoing leader of the Premier Command of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Eduardo Manahan Anyo, for the legacies he will leave behind as he assumes the top position in the military hierarchy. He is confident that the Philippine Army shall continue to soar for greater achievements as his successor, just like him, has that indomitable character of leadership and distinction to be the steward of the 85,000-strong Army. As the team captain leads the military institution, he will certainly set in motion for his vision to realize not just for the Army but for the entire armed forces. To General Anyo, sir, we congratulate you, more power and Godspeed. Ladies and gentlemen, the various contingents of the Philippine Army to pay tribute to our honoree. The parading contingent is led by Major General Benjamin R. Madrigal Jr., his staff, Colonels Rolando Nerona, Eugene Mata, Alejandro Papa, Alan Hambala, Benjamin Batara, and Rodrigo Sosmeño. Following the troop commander and staff is the Philippine Army Band under the baton of Sergeant Romeo Felix Santos. The first brigade is under the command of Brigadier General Ramon Yogyog. Staff, Lieutenant Colonels Renato Quinapas, Philip Novalias, and Gilberto Aramponi, Erwin Nogal, and Noel Cagasan. The 1st Battalion, a composite battalion of service and combat service support units of the Philippine Army, under Lieutenant Colonel Randy Remonte, his staff, Major Hussein Takilula, Decker Sabangan, Captain Alhamza Kuwit, and Major Albert Rabajo. The 1st Company is led by Captain Leo Ray Cadungo, his Executive Officer, 2nd Lieutenant Sherwin Foro, 1st Platoon Leader, 2nd Lieutenant Arnold Quinyon, 2nd Platoon Leader, 2nd Lieutenant Junbert Ulan. The 2nd Company is headed by Captain Maximo Trinidad, his Executive Officer, 2nd Lieutenant Arthur William Barba, 1st Platoon Leader, 2nd Lieutenant Cesar Reyes, 2nd Platoon Leader, 2nd Lieutenant Ian Light Conde. The 2nd Battalion, the 84th Infantry Battalion, a battalion of excellence, the centerpiece of the Army's capability development and improvement of organizational performance, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Donato Pasiculan Jr., his staff, Majors John Baden, Joe Ligutan, Ferdinand Basas, and Regnar Perez. The 1st Company is headed by Captain Malcolm Dowell Domingo, his Executive Officer, Captain Jaime Serna, 1st Platoon Leader, Captain Rudy Pisico, 2nd Platoon Leader, 1st Lieutenant Donald Frias. The next company is led by Captain Westy Nalios, his Executive Officer, Captain Benedict Joy Corpus, 1st Platoon Leader, 1st Lieutenant Jonathan Menor, 2nd Platoon Leader, Captain Charles Regan Season. The audience is requested to rise for the passing of the colors. You may be seated as soon as the colors have passed. Thank you. The 2nd Brigade is under the command of Brigadier General David Desano Sr., his staff, Lieutenant Colonels Jacinto Jasper Pison and Rene Cañete, Major Adonis Arco, Lieutenant Colonels Bienvenido Hilam and Angel Heracusco. The 1st Battalion from the Army Special Operations Command, the lead fighting unit of the Philippine Army, headed by Lieutenant Colonel Aladin Hogan, his staff, Majors Jopli Pablos, John Paulo Zayas, Harry Porpem, and Aris Quinto. The 1st Company from the Scout Ranger Regiment under Captain Rex Larita, his Executive Officer, Captain Alex Estabaya. The 1st Platoon Leader, 2nd Lieutenant Efraim Ledesma. 2nd Platoon Leader, 2nd Harold Larita. Earlier, the company that we have from the Special Forces, and now we have the Scout Ranger. We have Captain Mark Patrick Futulan, Executive Officer, Second Lieutenant Carl John Cabello, First Platoon Leader, Second Lieutenant Edmil Joven, Second Platoon Leader, Second Lieutenant Nico James Cabrera. The 2nd Battalion consists of soldiers from the Disaster Response Unit of the Army, the 525th Engineer Combat Battalion, 51st Engineer Brigade, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Elmer Wamil. His staff, Majors Victorino Bacanaya, Alan Anga-Angan, Virgilio Viterbo, and Joyter Doctolero. The 1st Company under Captain Sherwin William Gidangen, his Executive Officer, Captain Ferdinand Gabriel. 1st Platoon Leader, Captain Jefferson Alcalde. 2nd Platoon Leader, Captain Fernando Mendoza. The next company is led by Captain Roalde Camero, his Executive Officer, Captain Marjun Ray Gulli. 1st Platoon Leader, 2nd Lieutenant Marlon Comi. 2nd Platoon Leader, 1st Lieutenant Nardo Zambales. Please rise for the singing of the Awit Kawa.
Kalasag ng matatag na republika, punglot pawis ay di alintana, sa kasamay laking tiwala. Tatag ng kawal ay lakas ng bansa, kaya palaging maghanda. Sa kapong gali makikibaka, pagkat mahal namin ang bandila. Buong loob na lululusog, kalasag ng matatag na republika. Punglot kawis ay di alintana, sa kasamay laking tiwala. Tatag ng kawal ay lakas ng bansa, kaya palaging mahanda. Sa katong dali makikibaka, pagkat mahal namin ang bandila.
The Troop Commander, Major General Benjamin R. Madrigal Jr. will report the termination of this ceremony.
Ginoo, tapos na po ang parangal.
We'd like to request the audience to please remain seated until the Secretary of National Defense has left the grandstand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this ends the change of command ceremony of the Philippine Army and the testimonial review in honor of Lieutenant General Eduardo M. Año, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. On behalf of the new Commanding General Philippine Army, the officers, men and women, and civilian workforce of the Philippine Army, we would like to extend our sincerest thanks to everyone for gracing this event. God bless and have a pleasant day to all. Meantime, we invite the Secretary of National Defense, our principals for the ceremony, their families, relatives, and friends, members of the conference group, and other guests for the cocktails at the Philippine Army Officers Club.